Hello, I'm Stephen Lemo from Object River. And if you click this video because you're looking to learn Angular or WebSockets, you're in the right place. This video is going to contain the generation of an Angular application with a WebSocket backend for testing your WebSocket application. We also make a generation of a more simpler GUI so you can develop your Angular application. And thirdly, we generate the final WebSocket module so you can deploy your WebSocket interfaces, APIs to other Angular applications. Other videos in this playlist contain Angular callbacks and the generation of Java and Node WebSocket servers. This demonstration can be replicated by downloading the Object River Toolkit and the IntelliJ Community Edition IDE. Again, this is not an ad. Everything you see here is free, and enjoy the video. We're going to be doing our video today in IntelliJ, and so right here I'm going to be opening creating a brand new IntelliJ project here. And so we're going to do that in the Object River samples directory in an example called developers. So we're going to create this new project. And basically what it is it's really just an empty directory full of places to generate different platforms, Java, Node, Salesforce. And we're going to be generating Angular into this source directory today. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the Angular project. And we're going to do that by doing an Angular command called ng-new developers directory /. And what this is going to do is it's going to set up the initial Angular, all the files and Node to set the foundation for the Angular application. Now we're going to create the configurations in IntelliJ to run the Object River Cloud Compiler. And this is a plugin called Cloud Compiler. And we're just going to name this configuration Angular GUI. And this is for actually testing. This will be a test. We'll pick it here. And this is for our WebSockets compiler. Our Angular implementation is generated with REST metadata. And that's for a couple of different reasons I'll explain. So we'll pick the model, which is in our developers, it's in the model directory. You can see we have a REST model. We also have an open architecture model. This is one of the reasons we're generating our Angular from REST is we want to be able to convert open architecture models to Angular WebSockets also. And so we picked that. We're actually executing the compiler locally here. You wouldn't need this feature here. Actually, not an email. In options. And we'll put in an email. That's it. We're going to delete the build here. This will generate into the source directory. So that's generating the full testing GUI. We're going to clone that. And we're just going to call this GUI API. And we're going to generate, this is a scaled down version of WebSockets. And this is a better place to start for you to develop your application. And so we're going to generate that version. And we're going to generate a third run of the compiler that we're just going to call no overview. And what this does is this will generate no GUI. So this will just give you straight up TypeScript and that you can include into this application or other applications, because it'll have all of the WebSocket generated code. And so let's pick this GUI one, and we'll execute this to generate our source code. Okay, that just generated all of the code into our source directory. Now we'll continue. Okay, that just ran. It generated a bunch of code for actually like a testing application for this developer's example. If we look in the source, there's models. This is where you'd store your Angular definitions of your beans, your enumerations, dictionaries, etc. And then there's a module directory where this is the rest of the Angular application that's doing the WebSockets. And then there's the overview. This is the GUI part, or the testing part of the application. Now, if I look into what got generated, there was some more Angular configuration that was based on your Angular installation. We also generate a package definition that we know works, and this is based on Angular 11. So right now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to rename that right on top of the other package JSON. So we know that the definition is correct. And this is in the release notes that you can, if you wanted to do it manually and not take our configuration. And so right now we're going to open the terminal again, and we're going to do an npm install, which will install everything and the versions that are in the package. And spell it right first. Now that we installed our packages correctly, we're going to run ng build, which is an Angular command to build all of the Angular source code that was generated. Now that we know that everything built correctly, we're actually going to call Angular command ng-serve. And this is going to actually display our application in our browser. Now that the ng-serve command ran, our application will be displayed in the localhost 4200 port. All right, let's look at the application that got generated. All right, I'm going to drag the browser over here, and here we got is the this is the first page in the application. What it's showing you, it's showing the WebSockets, web services that were generated. And each one of these is like just a definition of the metadata that describes the different methods. And they might have like a bean here. This is a stuff bean where this set bean list is passing in a list of stuff and returning the list. If I go to the bottom, you can see a stuff has, a string, a BAS dictionary, a date, and a timestamp. So if I come back over here, let's execute this with invoke. Now this gives me the first page of the set bean list, and I can add a stuff there, and we can set the long, set the string. This is an integer. Here's the date. We're using the date picker. And this is a timestamp. And we can change the time set. Now I can send this to the server, and the server sends back, this string. Now everything is mocked on the server side. It's returning mocked errors. So in this case, you'd have to go to another video, but the backend server was Java. We support Node or Java backends with WebSockets, and you just need to go to another video to show you how to basically just generate and start those servers, whether you're starting them manually in the IDE or you're starting them in Docker, and that's all automated. I go back again. I can go to like another example. Let's execute this one. This is just returning a dictionary. So there's the dictionary, the name, and there's the element in the dictionary. So that's basically it for, now this is the testing interface. What we're going to show you next is more like a pared down interface to let you then start coding your own application. Okay, now we're going to show you the next example here. Let me move this browser out of the way. I'm going to come here. I'm going to remove all the code. We're going to regenerate a different example. So now I come up here, I'm picking the API, and now I'm going to generate the GUI API. And this is a pared down version of basically the same stuff, but with only 2 web pages that to generate. Let's bring the serve back up. Okay, that compiled. Let's bring our browser back over here. This is the old one. I'm going to do an F5 to refresh. Okay, that refreshed the page. Now this page looks the same. We just call this the overview. But if I invoke, what you see is it just returned the result here. And now we have this back button. I would have made this 2 pages, but I couldn't get the router to kind of route to itself and update the page. But now you have a very simple application where the back end is returning the same thing, but the interface is just showing you the strings. So this is a simplified interface where you can go into that one page and you can see how we're calling the TypeScript WebSocket methods. And this will allow you to even build your own pages and build on this application. So it's really a really good example pared down for you to start building your application. Okay, the final thing I want to show you here, let's move the browser out of the way. If we look at the code, let's bring this down. If we look at the code, it is really modular. These are your models. You see the BAS data dictionary and different types, and this is your module data. And then your overview is really it's totally separate like you built it as a separate application. So what I'm going to do, let me remove the code again. We'll remove that code and we'll come up to here and we'll do this no overview, and I'll show you what that is. The no overview is just this define here to tell the compiler that you don't want any overview generated. So now we generate the code, and now if we look in the app, you can see there's no overview, there's no reference. So once you start going into production, you're not going to want to generate that stuff. You only want to generate, the module and the data types you need for your application. So you can start adding new WebSocket methods, etc., and build this, and then eventually even just ship this as a package for other applications to use to access your back-end service. Okay, the last thing I want to show you before we wrap up. Now remember, I mentioned that we start Angular WebSocket applications as REST metadata. So right now we're going to go to the metadata, and you can see we built it from the REST metadata. So now I'm going to convert this REST metadata to WebSocket metadata. I'm going to add another run configurations. We're going to probably just dupe this one, and we'll call this WS meta. Come here, and we're going to say generate WebSocket metadata. And you can see this is going to go into the models directory. So I'm going to say save. Then we're going to run this. And what this does is you can see it generated this WebRPC metadata, which converted the rest to this WebRPC metadata, and we'll talk about this callback later. But the next part of this is going to show you how to generate callbacks and the server, etc., in other videos. Okay, that's it for our first, Angular WebSocket video. There's going to be another one for doing callbacks in WebSockets. So if your application needs to do callbacks asynchronously, you want to take a look at that video. Also, for the back end, you're going to need to look at either our Java or our Node, or there's going to be new platforms coming up so you can determine what backend you want, and then how to implement those methods. Oh, one other thing. Did I mention this is free? I use this in my consulting business for years, and now we're giving it away. So also definitely share this video and subscribe. Find us on LinkedIn and Twitter also. Thanks a lot.